The difference between recovery and sobriety to me is recovery's about a lot of different things. It's about regaining a lot of things that we lost in our addiction, um, rebuilding some of those bridges that were burnt, reestablishing yourself as a trustworthy, dependable, honest, hardworking individual. It's about rebuilding yourself um, within yourself. It's about doing a lot of self-reflection, self-reflecting, and making changes that need to be made. Um, Sobriety, on the other hand, is about just stopping using whatever it is that you were doing. Um, in sobriety, I know plenty of people who practice sobriety and still lie to you, cheat, steal. You can't trust them, you can't depend on them, but they're sober. So the difference between recovery and sobriety to me is like night and day. As a matter of fact, there are people who practice sobriety, and still find themselves in and out of jail. Still find themselves in and out of all different types of conflicts. Recovery, on the other hand, is changing all of that. The things you were doing to find yourself in compromising situations. You refrain from doing those things. Is it worth it to start the recovery process? I guess that would depend on the individual. Um, my personal feelings are like life experience, life's experience, make us do things. So when things get hard enough for some individuals, they're put in a position where they're forced to change. And addiction puts you in a lot of situations, a lot of uncomfortable, unhealthy, dangerous situations. And, some people can handle that better than other people. So some people go deeper and deeper and deeper into their addiction before they hit that wall where they say, well, damn, I'm tired of this shit. I need to make some changes. Um, some people can just have one bad trip, one bad experience, and they say, I need to change this. I don't see myself living my life this way. So, I think entering recovery, and depends on the individual, depends on what their motivation is. There are different things that make people look at things differently. Somebody may lose a meaningful connection with one of their children, and that may be enough to motivate them to make the changes that they need. Some people lose all contact with their children. That still isn't enough for them to enter recovery and stop doing the things that they were doing. But once you do enter recovery and once you do start to see those changes and those improvements in your life, it is very, very, very well worth it, in my opinion. How recovery started for me was surrender, like total surrender. Like the day I got out of jail, I went right to treatment. I was tired of that lifestyle. I was tired of in and out of jail. I was tired of being away from my family. I was tired of being alone and lonely all the time. I was tired of hating myself. I was tired of not having any confidence in myself. So while in jail, I was reflecting on my life and how my life had gotten to the point where it was. And in that moment, I decided I needed to make some changes. I decided I needed to get some help. And I decided, that I was willing to do whatever I needed to do to get the help that I needed. So the thing about recovery is, for me anyway, I got into recovery because I was tired of living the way I was living. I was tired of jail, homelessness, isolation, shame. I was tired of living like that. So that's what made me decide to get into recovery. Once I got into recovery and once I remained in my recovery and doing those things and starting to reach some of the goals that I had set in early recovery, my recovery became, at a certain point, it became like, in my eyes, like bigger than me. I wasn't just doing the things I was doing and living the life I was living and being the person I had become for me, because the realization had dawned on me that like what I do like affects other people. If I make one bad decision, one wrong choice, it can affect the lives of several other people who like love me, depend on me, look to me for advice, guidance, mentorship, whatever it is. So living in a life of recovery at some point, it becomes bigger